Well, hey there, everybody. Good to see you again. Or maybe it's good to see me again, because I can't see you. So I hope it's good to see me again, because I'm going to tell you I'm an asshole. Of course, the title of the video probably, you know, betrays that secret. But I wanted to touch on this because it was a thought that just popped into my head like 5 minutes ago. I'm like, I'm an asshole. I should make a video about that. And then I thought, well, how am I going to explain my position, where I'm coming from? And I thought, I'll just start it anyway, and it'll just come to me. So here we are. And first off, I want to say, when I talk to people online or in person, wherever it may be, in any situation, I'm always as kind as possible. I don't attack people. I'm not the kind of person who's always trying to get a rise out of others or, always be right, even though I do come across that way quite often. Because when I do get into a disagreement, when I disagree with what a person says, I'm not the kind of person who goes, "Oh yeah, okay, cool." I explain my position and how I feel. It doesn't matter if I agree or disagree. Really, it's a matter of discussing the topic in more depth, especially when people make claims. Therefore, I come across as an asshole quite often, and I actually have made quite a few enemies online just having conversations, in my own comment section in the past. I long ago gave up on that as far as arguing points to death to where people are actually frustrated, because I learned that people get way more easily agitated when it's through a text. And I learned this long before, the chat rooms and whatnot, having issues, a decade ago on the Kratom forums, and not saying the right thing or saying the wrong thing, or people feeling offended, which tended to grow into this bigger problem we have today, to where text messages, even through people, through the phone, it's impossible to really gauge intent, inflection, cadence, how our voices carry and what we really mean. You can crack a joke and not put a smiley face and somebody will think you're serious. So we tend to kind of, it's weird because we remember the best parts of our lives usually. Generally we kind of there's like this diagram that talked about this, that when you go on vacation, you're constantly worried about, like, when you first go on vacation, you have a lot of issues to deal with, but in the end, when you think back on it years later, you don't remember sitting at the airport on a layover and having to deal with missing your flight, that kind of stuff. You just remember the fun times. But we tend to remember the good times. But when it comes to arguments, it's like, I don't know, we always assume everybody's out to get us for some reason. You know what I mean? And I've overcome this for the most part, but I still find myself sometimes like reading something the wrong way that someone sends. But anyhow, back to the point. As far as me coming across as an asshole, some people would say you're not an asshole, and others would say, yeah, he's a total asshole. In fact, if you asked any of my friends or family, they would probably say that I'm not an asshole. I'm a nice guy, but I'm just very opinionated and outspoken. A couple people would probably call me an asshole, but some of those people are still my friends, and that's the thing. I can be a bit of a dick when I don't agree with what someone's saying. Being opinionated can actually cost you friends, it can cost you family, it can cost you your reputation. Speaking how you actually feel and what you think about topics, it's very difficult because people expect you to be on one side or the other. A great example, it's not just politics. I mean, sure, people are like, I have certain things that I agree with on conservatives and certain things with, Democrats. It doesn't matter to me, like, whether you're a liberal, Republican, I don't care. It's a matter of, is this topic something that rings true to me? Do I resonate with this? But I found it even in the past, it's been the same way with religion. In fact, that's probably where I've had the most issues and people calling me an asshole, is when I talked a lot about religion in the past and comparative religion. And to make a quick example, I've had plenty of Christians tell me I'm going to hell merely because I disagree with them. And I've also had atheists tell me I'm a complete idiot because I believe in some sort of a higher power or energy, some pattern to life. So in other words, you're either with us or you're with them. You either believe this or believe that. Now, if you fall into a group, then of course others will agree with you, but you end up having to take on, I absolutely believe that this is true and this is true, and including all of the different belief systems that are incorporated within that. So, being kind of a lone wolf, person who thinks for myself, uh, I tend to have to defend myself quite often about why I feel the way I feel. And maybe that's why I come across as an asshole a lot of the time. Um, if people send me a message or make a claim that something's true, and I say, oh, I don't think that's true at all, I might be playing the devil's advocate. Like my friend and I were talking about gun control and different issues like that earlier today. And he's a major advocate, and I'm a little bit, I'm somewhere in the middle, I guess. And, but I was, kind of putting forth points of like, well, what is the solution then? What is the solution to our problems? Everybody wants to scream about how you're either for freedom or you're not for freedom. And if you don't agree with A, B, and C, then you're a communist or And if you do agree with A, B, and C, the other side thinks that you're a monster. And the idea that we either have to get rid of all firearms or none, it's a false dichotomy, is what they call it. That's what we have in most of society right now, is a false dichotomy. It's where, there's this idea that you only have this choice or that choice, and otherwise you have no opinion. Your opinion doesn't matter. This happened with the pandemic, with the way people felt about the jab, right? You got like people out there who are screaming, anybody who got it is a moron and they're a piece of shit and they're all gonna die. And then others from the other side who are like, anybody who didn't get it is a complete asshole and a selfish jerk, and they're ruining society. It's like, what about the people who maybe have a condition where they know better and maybe they have an immune issue and they can't get it? Or you can, any issue, when you really get down to it, there are extremely subtle nuances that you have to understand in every topic. And there's nothing more relevant than the Dunning-Kruger effect. Something that every year I realize something new that I thought I knew more about than I did. When you first get into anything, you're going to think you know a lot about it. And sometimes you might. I mean, like, for example, guitar building. I was a little bit arrogant when I first got into guitar building. I was like, oh, it's pretty simple. This is what it is. Well, I still feel that way. That's the thing. Because, and I explained, I had a previous knowledge of carpentry, so I understand how wood goes together. I understand how to carve and make things. So yes, it's difficult. And there are all different types of hardware and different types of electronics to learn about. But I studied it for weeks, like video after video, book after book, until I understood, okay, as much as I could understand without going into a specific detail about one type of sound. Or I learned that a lot of the people who make claims about guitars and amplifiers and different sound and why sounds happen the way they do are totally misled a lot of the time. That there really is no difference in most amplifiers, for example. It depends on whether the tone is pre or post, whether or not you have the volume before the tone or the tone after the volume. What type of capacitors do you have on them? These types of things. So you can pretty much make anything, even a cheap guitar can sound good on a cheap amp if a good guitarist is playing it, was my point. And as I learn more about it, that's how I feel about most of the things that I've done in my life, where at first you get really into something and you think you know a lot about it, and then you start learning how deep it really goes. And that's great. That's humility. So I'm not saying that I'm arrogant about things or that I think I know everything, but rather I do an immense amount of research on topics that I'm interested in. And I think when I debate something with a person that doesn't understand that, they're like, yes, I spent 10 years involved in conspiracy theories. I was obsessed with the, MK Ultra and all the things that the government had done, and all the different false flags that we've had, and the attacks on other countries, and political hits. It's crazy. It's a deep history. But now when I have debates and I'm like, hey, whoa, you're getting too conspiracy oriented, they're like, oh, you don't even know how deep it goes. I'm like, well, actually, I do. It's like, there is a certain level of knowledge to where you feel confident about topics, as confident as you can be, knowing that you can't know it all. like aliens. I was obsessed with aliens, right? Now I'll argue with people about these topics once in a while, but not like I did before. Like there was nothing when it came to certain other topics, but when it came to something like aliens, I just don't know. The government had so much misinformation put out over the years, and I know this sounds off topic, but what I'm getting at is that we think we know a topic really well because we read something, we heard something, and often how we come across as assholes to each other is by arguing, and arguing out of ignorance and not knowing what we're talking about. And we all do it sometimes, but I think if you have enough humility and understanding about yourself, and this is where I get to the point where I'm saying I don't believe I'm an asshole. I don't treat anybody with disrespect unless they disrespect me first. However, I've found that people take ideas extremely personal. That just goes without saying, and I know you all agree, and I know you know what I'm talking about. Give you an example. If someone and I were arguing about religion, for example, and I don't identify with any belief system. In other words, I wouldn't be bothered if God did exist, nor if God didn't exist, you see. But for a person who is either a dedicated atheist or a dedicated Christian, and yes, there are dedicated atheists, and it can be like a religion itself, because ultimately people are looking for community and like-minded individuals, regardless of what you believe or don't believe, even if your belief is based on not believing something. It's pretty silly. But these people, when you argue about topics out of, things that nobody really understands, it really goes nowhere. It doesn't benefit anyone. But if you don't take a side, you're going to get called out and cast out. And that's okay. I would say that we're better off that way. And that's just my opinion on it. But this video is already 13 minutes, and I know we all have a short attention span out there. So not to be an asshole, but I'm going to cut it off now and say thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out my 15-minute free thinking podcast. It's in the description. What else? You can donate through Patreon if you are so inclined. I also have... I'm going to try to set up a live cast. Like a continuous regular one, but I just can't figure out a day yet. I'll get to that. Anyway, take your time, think it through, sleep on it, be patient, don't be hasty, meditate, relax. Peace out, bros and sisters. I'll see you next time.